After 16 years of battling chronic insomnia, I used to think that I would have insomnia forever, but I've now been sleeping great for the past 6 years without any sleeping pills or sleep supplements, and I know that I've completely healed my insomnia for good. I know how frustrating it is watching videos that just tell you to have like good sleep hygiene and a consistent sleep schedule, and my promise to you is that this is going to be a lot of advice that you've probably never heard before, and if you can't sleep and you feel like you've tried everything, you're definitely in the right place. I'm going to show you exactly what works so that you can do it too. First, I'm going to share a little bit about my backstory because it's important to understand how insomnia starts because that gives us clues as to how you can get rid of it. My chronic insomnia started when I was just 11 years old because I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. I had a very stressful childhood, and at night is when all of the fighting and the chaos would go down, and so nighttime was never peaceful. And so I'd be trying to sleep. Meanwhile, there's total chaos going on, which was impossible to ignore. And so what happened is my brain actually learned that it was more important for me to be awake and alert at night. And this is what happens to most people with insomnia, especially when your mind is activating, keeping you awake, or you just feel really alert and wired but tired kind of feeling. So whatever your origin story is for your sleep issues, our brains all work the same way when it comes to survival. Stress in your life activates the survival response in your brain. And whether your nighttime was traumatic or not, even stress from your day can carry over into the nighttime, and the stress can stay stuck in your body, which is what's keeping you in an alert state at night. So if your brain is thinking that you're under some sort of stress or danger, it's not going to let you sleep because that wouldn't be safe or very smart. So your brain just wants to keep you safe. That's like the number one priority. So that's how my insomnia started. But then there were a lot of things that I ended up doing that perpetuated my sleep issues, even after I was no longer in that stressful living environment. So even after whatever stressful thing in your life has sort of ended or settled down a bit, your mind and body can remain in fight or flight mode because it just becomes your new default way of operating. Once the brain gets used to doing something a certain way long enough, then it just starts to automate that as a habit. So a lot of people are living in fight or flight mode right now simply because that's what's become most familiar to your brain. What does fight or flight mode feel like? Well, it's basically anxiety. So now, even though I was living on my own in college, and honestly, I was way happier than I was before, I was now dealing with anxiety and insomnia, both general anxiety in my daily life and also anxiety about my sleep, since I still wasn't sleeping. And I didn't realize that I was experiencing anxiety at the time because this feeling had just become so normalized in my body, and I didn't know that there was any other way of existing. I just kind of thought that everybody else was like this and that I was normal. So my mind would go a million miles an hour all day long. I would overthink everything. I was unable to make decisions, always second guessing myself. I was worrying constantly, stressing out over every little freaking thing, and I still wasn't sleeping and having to, get up early for class when I was in college in Santa Barbara, or get up early for work when I was at my corporate job in San Francisco after that. So the main thing that perpetuated my insomnia was anxiety, but not because of the anxiety itself, but because I was living on autopilot and never stopping to question why I was the way I was. I didn't understand that my brain was on overdrive because it actually learned to be that way and that could be fixed. And I swear that this realization alone is enough to interrupt the pattern and really start to flip off that survival mode switch in your brain. Because what needs to happen for you to start taking your brain off autopilot is you need to start reprogramming it with the new way that you want to think, feel, and act. Which brings me to how I was able to end my insomnia and how you can do this too. Here are 4 ways for you to start reprogramming your brain so that you basically become the new version of you who doesn't have insomnia anymore. The first thing that I highly recommend you do is start consuming motivational content every second you get. I went down the personal development rabbit hole really hardcore. Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Eckhart Tolle. These are like the masters of helping you change your way of thinking and your whole perspective on life, really. So even reading just one of these books by one of those authors can change the way that you think and view your life entirely. Another thing that I did that for sure contributed to ending my insomnia was actually taking my goals and passions seriously and taking action towards them. Even if other people thought that I was crazy, I realized that I had these desires in my heart for a reason. And so I had to be true to myself and start pursuing them. So, for example, the first couple corporate jobs I had, I really hated them. I didn't feel like myself. I felt like I was faking it the whole time. I didn't have the passion for what I was doing. So I kept changing jobs until I found something that I didn't hate every day, right? I didn't let myself stay trapped doing something that I didn't like. And I kept searching for the right culture, the right industry, the right work-life balance where I could wake up in the morning and not dread going to work. Outside of career, I also got extremely involved in my hobbies and my passions. So for me, I love to dance. So I started taking dance classes again and making more friends who had more similar interests to me. And so my heart and my soul felt more fulfilled because I was now doing things that I actually enjoyed, like just for the hell of it, just for fun. And when you start doing things that you enjoy, your sleep naturally improves. And I know how hard it can be to force yourself to go out and do activities when you're feeling so sleep deprived from insomnia, but you have to trust in your heart that you have that passion for a reason, and that trusting that when you pursue that your life is just going to get better overall. The third thing that I did was I started protecting my energy. I stopped putting so much pressure on myself to get everything done on my to-do list every day. I stopped obsessing over having every little detail in my life be perfect. Even with family drama, I stopped getting so involved. I was like, if people want to self-destruct, that's their problem. That is not my problem. Of course, I'm available to help, and I did everything that was in my control to help anyone important in my life who was having a hard time. But I stopped investing my time and energy and emotions into people who weren't even listening to what I had to say. You can be a good person and try to help others, but if they won't help themselves and value the help that you're trying to give them, then there's not much else you can do. So I started really differentiating between what is in my control and what's not in my control. And if it's not in my control, I just let it go. I just started protecting my energy and valuing myself instead of sacrificing myself every time someone in my life wanted to complain about stupid shit and be an energy vampire, right? I just stopped letting people siphon my energy away from me. And the last thing I did, which I know is probably the biggest reason for why I haven't had insomnia come back for over 6 years, is because I completely took my attention off of sleep. I stopped making sleep this super important thing that needed to happen. Before, I was constantly worrying about my sleep. I wasn't wanting to be out too late. If I had to wake up early for something, it would send me into a total panic, and I would get a lot of anxiety around bedtime, worrying if I was going to get a good night's sleep or not. So I had to get to the place where I felt at peace no matter what, even if I didn't sleep. So even if I was laying awake in bed, I got to the point where that no longer frustrated me. I was at peace with it. It was okay to be awake. And because I was no longer stressing out about my sleep, ironically, that is what sends the signal to your brain that sleeping is safe, so that you can actually let go and fully relax. And that's when you start sleeping automatically again. And I know that when you've been dealing with insomnia for so long, that this can be easier said than done. But I had the realization that the people who sleep great, I'm sure you know plenty of them, they don't think about their sleep. They don't worry about their sleep. Sleeping is just like a total non-issue. So this is kind of one of the trickier steps to curing insomnia, but it is possible. I've done it and I've trained hundreds of people to do it. And the fastest way to get to the place where you're no longer worrying about your sleep is by using subconscious reprogramming techniques to literally retrain your brain to not hyperfixate on your sleep. This is like a whole deep dive in and of itself, which is why I actually created a free masterclass where I explain how to retrain your brain to sleep naturally by using subconscious reprogramming techniques. And I give a lot of examples of people who've also healed their insomnia by doing this approach. So the link to that masterclass is in the description below. So go watch that next if this is something that you need a lot of help with. If this video helped you or resonated with you in any way, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Also, like this video to help the algorithm push it out to more people who could use this information and improve their sleep and their life. I appreciate you for watching all the way to the end. If you want to dive deeper and work with me, start with the free masterclass that I mentioned, or you can also apply to work with me for one-on-one coaching. All those links are in the description below.